Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next installment of Math 12R screencast lessons. Today we're going to be looking at the general form of the equation of an ellipse. So we're going to go from general form to standard form. We did the same thing with the circle. So if you recall, this is just repeated completing the square, but on an ellipse, there's a little nuance at the end, okay? So, a and b, the coefficient of the x squared and the coefficient of the y squared have to be different numbers, but they both have to be either positive or negative. They have to have the same sign. Okay. So let's take a look at the first one. Write the equation of this ellipse in standard form. This is the general form. So if you remember, what we did with the circle is we grouped the like terms together, the x terms and the y terms, and then we took the constant, in this case the 23, and we moved it to the other side. So that's step one. I grouped the x squared and the negative 2x, the 6y squared and the 12y, and I moved the 23 over to the right side. So we're going to be doing completing the square, but in order to do that, we have to factor the 6 out of the two y terms. So we have y squared plus 2y in parentheses, 6 out in front. So on the left side, we have to add 1, take the coefficient of the x, divide by 2, square it, and the same thing on this side. So we added 1 on the left and the right, and on the right side, if you look at this, this is the first one that goes with the x's. Now this 1 in parentheses with the 6, that goes with the y's because we factored out a 6. So if I add a 1 in parentheses and I distribute the 6, it's really a plus 6. So when you've got something out in front of the parentheses like this, you drag it to the right, and since completing the square of what's in the parentheses is adding 1, that's why the 1 is in parentheses. Okay. So now you can have your trinomial on the left, x squared minus 2x plus 1, plus 6 parentheses y squared plus 2y plus 1 equals 30. So on the left side, it's x minus 1 squared. On the right side, it's 6 times y plus 1 squared. Okay, still equals 30. Now, if you recall from what we did with the ellipse, the equation has to be equal to 1. So we've got to divide out 30 out of everything. So I'll take what we had here, x minus 1 squared, plus 6 times y plus 1 squared equals 30, divide by 30. Okay. 30 over 30 is 1. X minus 1 squared over 30. Now the 6 and the 30 can be simplified. Okay. So the standard form for the equation of the ellipse of this particular equation is x minus 1 squared over 30 plus y plus 1 squared over 5 equals 1. Always has to be equal to 1. So the last thing you've got to do is divide out whatever is on the right side. Okay. Let's take a look at example 2, and we'll do this one together, and then what I'm going to ask you to do is pause the screencast to do example 3, and then come back. So, following the pattern of what we've been doing, I group the like terms, the x terms, group the y terms, and take that constant and get rid of it, move it to the right side. So over here, we have to factor a 3 out. You can't have anything in front of the x squared or the y squared term. You've got to factor it out if you have something in front of it. So I factor out a 3, and you have x squared plus 6x in the parentheses. And on the right side, you have y squared minus 2y. On the right side of the plus sign, but still left side of the equation. So over here, we have to add 9 to complete the square. But because you have that 3 sitting out in front, we have to add 3 times 9. On the right side, you add 1. So what we wind up with is 3 times x squared plus 6x plus 9 plus y squared minus 2y plus 1 equals 24. So we group these. We convert it to a perfect square trinomial. We have x plus 3 squared in parentheses with a 3 out in front of it, plus y minus 1 squared equals 24. So again, the equation has to be equal to 1. So the next step is we divide everything by 24. So 3 over 24 becomes 1 over 8. And you wind up with x plus 3 squared over 8 plus y minus 1 squared over 24 equals 1. 24 over 24 is 1. So not a whole lot different than what we did with completing the square and going from general to standard form when we looked at a circle. So at this point, pause the screencast and take a look at example 3, and then come back to the screencast after you've done it to check your work. So hopefully you pause the screencast the way I asked you to, so you could try example 3. So let's get to the solution. Again, we're grouping the terms. The y terms together, there's only one x term, it's the x squared. Okay. So on the left side, if I were to factor out a 3, what you really have in the parentheses is 3 times x plus 0 squared. To the right of the plus sign, you factor out a 4, and you have y squared plus 2y equals 8. Oh, by the way, if you notice this one, I already moved the constant to the right side before I gave you the problem. So over here, there's nothing to add to the x terms. The y terms, you're adding 1, but you've got that 4 out front, so you're adding 4 times 1, which is 4. 8 and 4 is 12. So you've got to keep dragging the 4 in front of the y terms. Now we can make perfect square trinomial, y plus 1 squared, 4 still out in front. Now we're coming down to the end of this problem, and you've got to divide everything by 12. Okay. 12 over 12 is 1. So 3 over 12 and then 4 over 12. So since it's x plus 0 squared, we could just write x squared. And 3 over 12 is 1/4. You have the y plus 1 squared, and 4 over 12 is a third. So there's the solution to that. So bring your questions to class. I know there's a lot of little steps. We'll try and focus in on that. Bring your questions to class, and I have several more problems to practice to do in class. So thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of Math 12R screencast lesson for the Math 12R Flip Classroom.